Good evening. Welcome to Brooklyn Legal Services 2021 Champion of Justice Award event. We are so glad that you could join us this evening for this special program. I'm Deb Howard and proud to be the board chair of this extraordinary organization, which serves over 22,000 low-income residents of Brooklyn every year. We serve the legal needs of families and individuals, children, the disabled, and immigrants, people facing eviction or foreclosure, domestic violence, lack of benefits, unemployment, discrimination, and deportation, to name a few of the issues which we address through our work. This evening's event supports the Family Law and Education units, and we will show a short video highlighting these practices. Our honorees are three outstanding women of color: Loretta Lynch, partner at Weiss, Natalie Lamarque, General Counsel at New York Life, and Michelle DeLauz, representing our local partner, Fifth Avenue Committee. Our host, Errol Lewis, will lead a discussion focused on women in leadership, which we hope you will find thought-provoking and inspiring. We wish to thank you for your generous support and your attendance this evening. Enjoy the program.
Good evening and welcome to the 2021 Champions of Justice Award. My name is Frederica Bashir, and I am Treasurer and Co-Director of Development of the Brooklyn Legal Services Board of Directors. Please join us in taking a moment to remember the recipient of the 2018 Champion of Justice Awards, the recently deceased Mr. Michael K. Williams. Perhaps best remembered for his portrayal of such iconic characters as Omar and Chalky White on the HBO hit series The Wire and Boardwalk Empire. It is when Michael served as a documentarian that one got a true glimpse into the true Michael. In 2018, Michael graced us with excerpts from a passion project, the Weiss documentary Raised in the System, in which he sought to focus a lens on the over-criminalization and over-incarceration of youth in American society. Among those factors that were identified in the film as contributing to this most unfortunate phenomenon included a lack of access to adequate housing, education, and economic opportunity. A perfect overlay to the services offered at Brooklyn Legal Services, where the focus is on providing access to justice for our most vulnerable populations. So please, join us in a moment of silence for my friend, Mr. Michael K. Williams, who is gone, but who will not be forgotten.
Thank you to Board Chair Deb Howard and all the members of BLS's Board of Directors for your incredible work in planning this event and for your unwavering commitment to Brooklyn Legal Services. And thanks to all of you for joining us for BLS's 2021 Champions of Justice Award celebration. As many of you know, Brooklyn Legal Services has been vindicating the rights of the unrepresented and achieving life-changing results for tens of thousands of Brooklyn residents every year since its inception in 1967. Remarkably, last year during the height of the pandemic, BLS opened close to 19,000 cases, benefiting over 112,000 Brooklynites. When I began my tenure as BLS's new project director in January of last year, no one could have predicted what lay ahead. As we pivoted overnight to working remotely, we began to bear witness to the suffering and devastating impact that COVID was having on the communities we serve. Our most vulnerable clients, low-income workers, tenants, immigrants, victims of domestic violence, the elderly, and people with disabilities not only experience disproportionate rates of infection and deaths, but have also been disparately impacted in numerous other ways as well. From challenges in accessing remote learning to increased domestic violence, illegal lockouts, and the inability to meet their most basic needs, COVID-19 has laid bare the racial and socioeconomic inequities that we knew existed across all our practice areas. Brooklyn Legal Services has been on the front lines advocating for those hardest hit by the pandemic and leveraging our legal expertise to address these systemic inequities. Last year, our Workers' Rights Benefits Unit litigated a case which allowed more than 40,000 taxi drivers statewide to access unemployment benefits and advocated with various agencies to streamline access to public assistance, unemployment insurance, and other wage replacement benefits. Throughout the pandemic, our Foreclosure Prevention Unit continues to file human rights complaints against discriminatory lenders and to defend low-income homeowners in communities of color, many of whom are not eligible for COVID-related mortgage relief. Last year, we helped close to 400 homeowners avoid foreclosure. Our housing units have worked tirelessly to address the rash of illegal lockouts, repairs issues, and landlord harassment that has spiked in communities of color during the pandemic despite the eviction moratorium, restoring illegally evicted tenants to their homes and fighting for decent, habitable housing for low-income Brooklyn residents. Last year, we assisted over 8,000 tenants. Our Community Economic Development Unit, staffed by a single attorney, assisted 46 small business owners and through outreach reached over 1,200 small businesses and individuals, getting the word out about state, federal, and private sources of financial assistance. During the pandemic, BLS helped over 1,300 clients access food stamp and cash assistance benefits. And our disability unit helped over 1,000 people with disabilities secure SSI, or Supplemental Security Income benefits, as well as SSDI benefits. To help meet the intense need, BLS's social workers worked with a citywide team to raise and administer an emergency client fund which provided over 280 clients who were ineligible to receive state or federal government assistance with cash grants. Our staff even came together to outreach to all of our clients to encourage them to participate in last year's critical census count. And this year, we reached out to our most vulnerable clients to provide up-to-date information on COVID vaccination eligibility and how to access the vaccine. Immediately following the governor's stay-at-home announcement, BLS's Family Law Domestic Violence Unit sprang into action to counsel all of our current clients and opened up a hotline to provide advice to individuals who had concerns regarding custody, visitation, and orders of protection, many of whom were now sheltered in place with their abusers. And our education practitioners engaged in immediate advocacy to ensure that our clients were connected to remote learning and to their special education services. They also engaged in a wide range of policy advocacy to address such issues as police in schools, access to the arts, and the school-to-prison pipeline. This short video highlights the critical services that BLS's Family Law Domestic Violence Unit and our Education Advocacy Project provide.
Brooklyn Legal Services has been serving the community for more than 50 years. We address the most basic human needs of people who are unable, who don't have the resources to address them themselves.
There's an imbalance in terms of representation and knowledge of the civil court system. It's important to level the playing field for low-income New Yorkers. We provide a range of services for the community in civil law cases?
Our greatest strength is the group of committed advocates that we have who have incredible expertise that allow us to represent the client in a more holistic way.
At Brooklyn Legal Services, we have a family law unit. We represent survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault in a number of cases. I met Luisa at the Family Justice Center. She had been in a long-term relationship with an abuser who was an alcoholic and came to a point that she could not take the abuse anymore. And for her safety and that of her children, she left. After she separated from him, she had another child from another relationship. He made our client sign an acknowledgement of paternity, designating him as the father of this young child that he knew was not his child. He started stalking our client. On one evening, he broke into her home. He strangled her and stabbed her multiple times in the presence of his daughter, who was beyond traumatized.
Sí, fue traumático, no tanto para mí, sino por mis hijos, más para la hija de mi expareja, pero con la ayuda de Dios empecé a acercarme más y ahí fue donde un día pensando, tuve que pedirle perdón a mis hijos. Quizás lo hice pensando en el bien mío, pero no en el de ellos.
When she came to us, he was incarcerated asking for visitation with his daughter and the youngest child. We started a paternity proceeding to challenge that acknowledgement of paternity. We secured an order that stated that he was not the father, and then we were able to establish the paternity rights of the youngest child's biological father, Angel, who is now our client's husband. And we were able to get his applications dismissed. After the cases in family court were resolved, we represented Luisa in an application. It's called a U visa. It's an immigration application for victims of crimes. And this is really an application that is a path to U.S. citizenship. We filed for her. We also filed for Angel, her new spouse. A few months ago, we received a notification that the application was approved. Both Luisa and Angel are going to be able to remain in the United States. They're going to be able to provide for their children and see their children grow up in this country.
Yo sentí una emoción y fue un momento que me salieron las lágrimas porque dije ya no voy a andar con miedo afuera. Estoy agradecida con Brooklyn Legal Services y quiero darle gracias porque gracias a que yo los conocí, mi vida ha cambiado.
A lot of issue in our communities is that people don't really know their rights. People don't have information. So I think a big service that we do to the community is that we go to the communities and we inform people about their rights in their language in ways that they can understand. And that has a profound impact.
Every single practice area in Brooklyn Legal Services is amazing and does incredible work that everybody needs. But I think what makes the education unit a little different is that we are talking about the future of our young clients, because when they are well educated, when they have what they need to succeed in life, they will become happy adults. Sometimes, unfortunately, students are not making the academic progress that people believe are age appropriate. Unfortunately, Alejandra was not meeting them, although she was being given services that the Department of Education believed would solve the problem. And so Carla gave the DOE the opportunity to allow her to go into these classes. But unfortunately, there just was not any progress at all. It was clear that it wasn't Alejandra. We needed to change the environment in order to get her to make the progress that we knew that she could make.
En la escuela no me la entendía porque al no tener en mí poder ayudar a mi hija como madre es frustrante.
Made me feel like kind of lonely at the same time because other kids, they would understand it really easily, and me, it would take me a while. So yeah, I kind of get frustrated.
We went to a hearing. The hearing was the Department of Education providing Alejandra a free and appropriate public education. We were able to prove that we found a private school that we believed Alejandra would make meaningful progress in, and then the Department of Education paid the school directly and allowed Alejandra to attend.
Yo diría gracias a los servicios legales que ellos ofrecen. Gracias por pensar en los niños. Y como madre, siento que mi hija tiene algo muy bueno en este momento para su vida y su futuro. Y creo que esto es algo que, como inicialmente dije, va a cambiar su vida.
When I found out I was going to another school, I was really excited. In my new school, I made a lot of friends. It's just much better. They have patience. But I actually really like math and writing and reading, so I feel more confident prepared.
I think there's still a very stark divide between those who have access to services and those who don't. It's even more critical for us as an organization to be there to those who don't have access to the services and to be a voice for those whose voices are not being heard.
Our job is to fight the injustices that our clients are experiencing every day. We can help to stabilize a family's lives so that they can live in a just society. Founded in 1978, FAC's mission is to advance economic, social, and racial justice for the communities of South Brooklyn. They accomplish their mission through community-centered affordable housing, grassroots organizing, tenant home and homebuyer and homeowner services, adult education, and workforce development. FAC has always been innovative and responsive to community needs. For instance, building senior housing on church-owned, underutilized land, and working with the Brooklyn Public Library to build affordable housing on the site of the Sunset Park Library above the new library facility. Their community organizing uses a collaborative model, forming coalitions with other grassroots organizations to achieve their goals. Examples being to bring a strong community voice to the rezoning of the Gowanus area, and engagement with Red Hook residents to bring about job creation and inclusive and equitable development. A recent initiative trains residents to install solar panels on all their portfolio of affordable housing, giving workers a chance to participate in a growing industry of environmental jobs. Long-standing issues where BLS and FAC have worked together have been in tenant advocacy, eviction prevention, and addressing poor conditions through housing court actions, as well as our response to the mortgage foreclosure crisis, which began in 1994 and continues to this day. Another area of shared interest is our work to secure benefits for low-income Brooklynites. This evening, here to accept the Community Partner Award is Fifth Avenue Committee's Executive Director, Michelle Deleuze. I am very pleased to introduce Michelle, as I have known her since 2004 when she became Executive Director. To me, Michelle and FAC represent the best in community-based nonprofit development and services.
Thank you, Deb, so much for those kind words. They mean so much to me and to FAC coming from you as a longtime leader in the community development movement and as a friend. I have so much respect and love for everything you've done in your career and that you continue to do now, serving our communities through your board leadership. On behalf of the Fifth Avenue Committee board, staff, and the thousands of program participants and tenant activists that we work with each year, thank you so much to Brooklyn Legal Services for the Champion of Justice Award. Congratulations to our other honorees, Loretta and Natalie. It's a privilege to share the virtual stage with such incredible women. FAC's impact is amplified because of our longstanding multi-decade partnership with Brooklyn Legal Services. Our incredible organizers, housing counseling and benefits access staff, and the residents we work with are indebted to the dedicated attorneys and staff at BLS. You help us help tenants, homeowners, remain in their home and to be stably housed, to ensure they have quality housing and that they hold on to their single largest, greatest asset and access the benefits they're entitled to. Thank you for this honor and for being such an incredible partner.
Good evening, everyone. I have the honor and privilege of introducing our first honoree, Natalie Lamarque. The hardest part of preparing my remarks was deciding what of so many things to highlight about Natalie's far-reaching impact, both in our organization and across the community. There's the amazing work that she does at New York Life. Taking the reins in March 2020, Natalie has been our pandemic GC. She's created a supportive, collegial, and cohesive environment for her team of over 150 attorneys and support staff, even though we have not been in the office since she took the job. She shows her humanity and demonstrates empathy on a daily basis, in probably the most challenging time of our generation. She's also a champion of justice for her community. For example, as a trustee and co-chair of the advisory board for City Year New York, she helps drive the amazing work they do supporting the development, growth, and success of students in systematically under-resourced schools. And if you've ever had the privilege to talk to Natalie about the work that she does, you'll know the passion she brings to it. Her commitment to investing in these diverse young high school students is not only a priority, but one that is near and dear to her heart. Given the topic of this evening's fireside chat, I thought it most appropriate to share how Natalie is a champion for so many women and men of color just like me. I've now known Natalie for over 10 years, since I was just a law student. From early on, she served as a mentor, a sounding board, and an advisor to a young Black attorney trying to find her way. Over the last year, while serving as her chief of staff, she's encouraged me to embrace challenge and go outside of my comfort zone. She has demonstrated her faith in me when I needed it most, when imposter syndrome was rearing its ugly head. And I am just one example of so many people on whom Natalie has had such profound impact. I truly believe that if more women and men of color had someone like Natalie Lamarque in their corner, there just wouldn't be enough leadership roles for us to fill. To close, Natalie's impressive career and her unwavering commitment to the community demonstrate why she was chosen for this award. But truly, the work that Natalie does each and every day, creating an environment where women like me can thrive and grow, is what defines her as a champion of justice. Natalie, congratulations on this well-deserved honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. It means so much to me, the words that you just said. I really want to thank Brooklyn Legal Services as well. I have to give a special thank you to my husband and my two sons, Raymond and Xavier. You all are the reasons why I do this. It is a bit surreal to share the stage with Loretta and Michelle. Specifically with regard to Loretta, I was a baby lawyer watching Loretta train attorneys at the International War Crimes Tribunal for Rwanda in 2004. So to be sitting on a stage with her is, quite frankly, a bit overwhelming. And lastly, I really do want to thank New York Life. You know, New York Life's fundamental values of mutuality and humanity, coupled with its mission to provide financial security and peace of mind, drew me to the company. And I've always believed that integrity and profitability are not at odds, but rather are inextricably linked. And throughout my time at New York Life, I've watched the company live those values. So I just want to say thanks again for this amazing honor.
Good evening. It is my great pleasure to introduce my dear friend and colleague, Loretta Lynch, whom we honor tonight as a champion of justice. I know of no one who deserves that honor more. A true champion of justice, particularly one who functions as a chief prosecutor, as Loretta did, both as United States Attorney for the Eastern District of New York and as Attorney General of the United States, is one who never permits themselves to be distracted by personal ambition, partisan politics, or competition for headlines. In that regard, Loretta has distinguished herself in every leadership position she has held. I first came to know Loretta when I served as United States Attorney for the Eastern District of New York. Loretta had already earned a reputation as a first-rate trial lawyer and investigator who had scored victories in cases against violent gangs and corrupt politicians. She was also regarded as a natural leader who inspired other lawyers by her example. I chose Loretta to be deputy chief and ultimately chief of our Long Island office, an operation that in size would place us among the 10 largest U.S. attorneys' offices in the country. In that position, she had to coordinate the activities of all of the federal law enforcement agencies assigned to Long Island, including the FBI, postal inspectors, IRS, Secret Service, and INS, as well as numerous local police and sheriff's departments. Historically, these agencies often found themselves in unseemly and counterproductive competition with one another. That did not happen on Loretta's watch for a very simple reason. She was never interested in claiming credit for prosecution victories for herself. Her willingness to share credit with every agency and every individual who participated in an investigation made her a beloved figure among Long Island law enforcement agencies and officials. I appointed Loretta to serve as my chief assistant, and I could not have been prouder when she was designated to succeed me as United States Attorney. The rest, of course, is history. As Attorney General of the United States, Loretta brought steady leadership during one of the most fraught periods in our political history. Always acting in the best interest of the public, she was sworn to serve. Loretta is indeed a true champion of justice, and I am pleased to join you this evening in honoring her.
Good evening, all. Thank you so much, Zach, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, frankly, so much for being my friend, my mentor, my inspiration for so many years. Thanks also to the Board of Trustees and the Gala Chairs of Brooklyn Legal Services for this wonderful award. To my fellow award recipients, Michelle and Natalie, I am so proud of all of the work that you have done. It's truly my honor to share a stage with you. Brooklyn Legal Services, what a privilege to be here to uplift this incredible work. Really, the topics you touch, the issues that you manage every day, almost too many to name. I just want to highlight the school to prison pipeline and the Veterans Justice Project, to name but a few, that really seem to highlight the heart of what you do. Every day you take on the most important challenge of our day. That challenge, of course, is how do we make real the promise of America, especially for those who often only seem to feel the burdens of America? Every day you shoulder that challenge and you work to make the law truly accessible and open and available for everyone. Now, like so many here, I have been privileged to have had an extraordinary life in the law. It's taken me places that I really couldn't have dreamed when I was a young lawyer just starting out. But what's always been most memorable to me have been all of the people that I've met along the way, mostly victims, mostly witnesses, who had no reason to have any faith in the legal system or that justice even knew their name, but who chose to put their faith in me and in the law to bring them some measure of comfort. And now they place their faith in all of you, in all of us. They come to us, they come to Brooklyn Legal Services with their most difficult problems, with their most painful issues, and really with their darkest moments. And Brooklyn Legal Services never turns them away. It's truly incredible what you have managed to do, and the voices you have uplifted, the people you've empowered, and the issues that you have raised. I can think of no one better suited to take on this challenge than you. So I thank you tonight, not just for this wonderful award, but for all of the work that you've done in the past, for everyone who comes to you looking for light in the law instead of the limits of the law. I can't wait to see what you do in the future. I look forward to standing shoulder to shoulder with you. Thank you again so very, very much.
Good evening, all. My name is Celeste Morris, President of Morris Allsop Public Affairs and Chair of Brooklyn Legal Services Development Committee. It is truly my honor and pleasure to thank you for taking the time to be with us this evening and to honor this distinguished group of powerful honorees. To New York Life's Senior Vice President and General Counsel Natalie Lamarque, We genuinely appreciate the generous support you have shown for tonight's event and for the work being done by our advocates and staff. To former U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch, we thank you for being a beacon of inspiration and a testament to living a life committed to service and integrity. And to you, Michelle De La Us, and the Fifth Avenue Committee, we cannot say enough about the impact of your work in Brooklyn and the city. Our list of sponsors and contributors for this event is lengthy. A special shout of gratitude goes to Deborah Voice and Plimpton and to AIG for being top sponsors and champions for justice tonight. Please take a moment to watch here for the names of the other firms and individuals that have sponsored this evening and helped us make history. Because of you, our sponsors and donors, Brooklyn Legal Services celebrates raising the largest sum ever. We are truly grateful. It is also my pleasure to thank the members of the board's development committee for their outstanding participation and outreach. In addition, a warm thank you goes to Tanya Silas and Anna Meyer of Lisner's Development Department. Together, we were an awesome team. Lastly, a boisterous shout out goes to Errol Lewis, newscaster extraordinaire and our fireside chat moderator. He has generously donated his time year after year to make this event a success. Once again, thanks to you, our audience and supporters. Please enjoy the rest of the evening as we join the much anticipated fireside chat.
Thank you, Celeste. I'm Errol Lewis, the political anchor at Spectrum News New York One, and I'm a columnist at New York Magazine. I'm very glad to be here for another year of celebration of the great work of Brooklyn Legal Services. And I want to have a discussion with the three powerful women who you're honoring here tonight. And without further ado, I want to jump right into it with Loretta and Natalie and Michelle. Let me start with you, Natalie. When it comes to creating a pipeline so that there will be more like you, that there will be more women of color in particular, young attorneys who want to get out in the world, what would be the most important advice you'd want to impart to them as they're venturing into the beginnings of their legal career?
I think that one of the things that is the hardest, unfortunately, especially for women and women of color, is learning to take risks. I oftentimes see the most talented women take themselves out of the selection process because they judge themselves at a standard that, quite frankly, no one can meet. And to be fair, their male colleagues don't meet. And so the first thing I would tell them was take the risk. Trust that you have a ton more skill and ability than you give yourself credit for. And fundamentally, I am the beneficiary of standing on the shoulders of others. And so stand on those shoulders, ask for help, reach out. It will be provided as long as you also give help to others, because I do believe in reciprocity.
I know from your biography, Natalie, that you clerked for a woman judge, that you had very powerful mentors, including at your workplace. Was there an explicit conversation you had with them that they said, look, I'm bringing you along because you're part of a pipeline. You may be part of something bigger than you realize?
I think there were explicit, but there were more implicit conversations. The judge you mentioned is Ann Claire Williams, who is a retired judge from the Seventh Circuit, who Loretta also knows very well. You can't be in her orbit and not feel a sense of obligation to do for others what she's doing for you. And it's less about what they told you and more about what they did in front of you. So you just have to step up.
And Michelle, I know you from the world of development, where there are a lot of people who are trying to figure out how to make a living, how to make it work, how to get respect and the kind of seniority that enables you to make big decisions along the way. What would you tell to young women who were thinking about following in your footsteps?
I would say that there's a tremendous amount of reward in doing community development work and seeing concrete impact, whether that concrete impact, there's a bricks and mortar project, an affordable housing project, or legislation that is passed, or and oftentimes folks might think about the financial rewards, but there's so many, in my mind, more rewards in a form of public service.
And as you define public service, for a lot of people, that means joining an administration, becoming a commissioner, an assistant commissioner, or something like that. But there are many other forms of serving the public, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I see that every day with the local tenant leaders that we organize and that Brooklyn Legal Services provides assistance to. Oftentimes it starts at that grassroots level where people kind of dip their toe in the water and start to realize they have a voice and have power, and it can grow from there.
And Loretta Lynch, you've gone through that door up at the top of the mountain where the laws of physics stop operating, and the crazy level of politics happens, where people engage in campaigns of personal destruction, where people say things that have nothing to do with the truth or the law or reality itself in some cases. Talk a little bit about to the extent that Natalie was talking about risk and reward. There are certain risks going into that highest level. What's your take on the rewards, the benefits, the risks, and whether it's all been worth it?
I see you've been to Washington a few times, Errol. I think I will tell you that at the outset, just to start with your last question first, it's always worth it. When you find a cause that you believe in or an entity that you can serve, in my case, it was the Department of Justice, and you get the benefit of being able to just wake up every day and do the right thing, as people say. It can sound corny, but that's really very much how people feel about it. That's an incredible reward in and of itself. But you're right. Certainly, as you move through different areas of life, it happens to everyone. Politics is at every level, even at the community level. You will find people with different agendas. You'll find people who may not agree with the goals that you're trying to achieve, who may actively block your way for reasons that are political, that are detrimental to the health and well-being of the people you're trying to serve. What I've always found to be most helpful is to keep focused on the reason why I'm there. And we're all put in these places for a reason. We all are in these positions because, as Natalie noted, we stand on the shoulders of others before. People have supported us and helped us reach these goals and reach these positions. And so keep your eye on that particular ball and focus on why you're there, because other people's agendas are not something that you can control. That's certainly the message that I've learned throughout my life. Some people think that I learned it in DC in politics. Actually, I grew up in the Baptist church where I learned about politics firsthand, I can tell you. So you can't control what other people say and do and think, but you can control the impact that you have on the lives of others. And that's always got to be your North Star, is that, when I leave this place, am I leaving it better off? Are people better off because I was there? And if you hold to that particular goal, then the rest of it falls away.
One of the extraordinary things about federal service that those of us who have not engaged in it, I think, can scarcely comprehend is how broad the reach is, how lasting the change is. And, there's a long road to get there and a lot of frustration along the way. But what are one or two things that you're going to be able to take with you for the rest of your life about what you were able to do as leader of the Justice Department?
I was tremendously proud of the work that we did in law enforcement and community relations. That is obviously a longstanding issue. It's a generational issue. I worked on it during my tenure as U.S. Attorney in New York, and even before when I prosecuted police corruption cases. but I'm tremendously proud of the work that the department was able to do in bringing law enforcement to the table. We had a program called Collaborative Reform, where law enforcement departments would reach out to the Department of Justice. And we'd always had it, but it really was really utilized heavily after Ferguson, when so many police departments across the country looked up and said, I don't want to be where they are. I don't want to see my city, my department, my community in that situation. So they reached out to the Department of Justice and they sought help. You know, our force guidelines haven't been updated in years. Can you give us some guidance? Can you connect us with departments that handle this better? So I'm tremendously proud of the work that we did to actually work with law enforcement and bring about some real change. I'm also tremendously proud of the work that we did in the voting rights area and in the LGBTQ area. I feel like the department and the administration, frankly, took a great stand on both of those important issues. You move through policy and through the law, as this organization knows. You know, cases are important, but policy is important also. And to be part of an administration that stood up for the rights of people to vote freely and openly and fairly, and for the rights of our LGBTQ friends and family members to be fully recognized with all the benefits that comes from being an American, is something that I'll always be incredibly proud of.
Mm. Okay, so now, ladies, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Me Too movement and what it has or has not done, and from your standpoint, and where it's likely to go. Have you seen any changes as a result of it? I'm in journalism, and I happen to be of an age and a level in this business where I've seen a lot of people that I know get swept up by it, in some cases removed. And you find out about it, and it's kind of like, well, yeah, you needed to go. It's created a lot of openings, it's created a lot of change, and at least a little bit of conversation. But I wonder, outside of that realm and some of these high-profile cases, what you've been seeing, and whether or not it's something that we can expect to see inspiring further changes in the legal profession and elsewhere. Let me start with you, Natalie.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when I think about the Me Too movement, there's what you just said, the headlines, but then there's the changes in comportment, right? In the workplace, in the boardroom, in the business setting that are not highlighted enough. And I know that it's scary. Some men have articulated to me that it's a scary time. But I think they also have to understand, by changing the culture, by us as a society condemning certain behavior writ large, it has created space for voices in settings that didn't have voice previously. So, you know, I hope that when it comes to Me Too, we both focus on the egregious behavior and stamp it out, but we also understand that it's culture change. And it's beyond that headline or that salacious moment. It really does put us on an equal footing where, as a woman in a business setting or any setting, you don't feel as though you need to change your behavior or comportment to fit into a box that has been created for you by a male-dominated culture. And that, I think, should get a little more attention when we talk about the Me Too movement.
Okay. What do you think, Loretta?
I agree with Natalie. I think that she's absolutely right, that what's needed is a culture shift. Culture is changed by these types of actions that we see. You know, in an individual lawsuit or a high-profile person losing their position isn't the end result that frankly is needed. That's the beginning of the change. That's the accountability. There also needs to be transparency, and there needs to be a recognition that what people are asking for is to be treated equally, to be treated with dignity and respect that some people just take for granted, but is routinely denied to women, to people of color, to marginalized people, and to have that conversation that, in fact, there are different experiences in the workplace. And that even the people who consider themselves enlightened or woke, or the people who themselves perhaps don't engage in difficult or challenging behavior, but don't really see how it impacts other people, still need to think about it as well, because they're part of the culture shift also. I think that's the next phase in this. And also understanding that this affects people both, again, as Natalie noted, in the high profile cases, but people working at everyday jobs across America. When you go to work and you can't relax for fear that you're going to lose your livelihood and means of support because someone views you in a light that's less than. That's an untenable position, and we can't have that for anybody.
Michelle.
Well, the only thing I would add, and I certainly think that both Loretta and Natalie summed it up really well. The other thing, of course, is I think the movement has helped differentiate intention from impact. I think a lot of people have always thought, well, if that was not my intention, how could that be wrong? And I think part of the movement is helping people understand that it really, the intention doesn't matter. It really is the impact that matters. I also think that a lot of folks, including some folks in my own organization, have found a voice, have become more courageous in sharing their experiences as a result of the movement, as they see their experiences reflected in the stories of the women that are more public about what is going on. And that is absolutely part of the culture change, but there's a shift inside, right? When people kind of own that voice and kind of own the power that they have, that is part of the culture shift too.
Have any of you seen something that really stood out for me when some of these cases began to come up? In the particular cases, some of the higher profile cases came about when the beginning of the story is, so we were all out having drinks, at a work event and so forth. And I found it somewhat liberating to now have the space to say something I'd been wondering about for years, which is, why do we always have to go out and get drunk? And I would ask some of my colleagues, when's the last time somebody came up with like a killer idea that won, a Pulitzer or an Emmy Award while we were all out getting trashed at night? We don't need to do this. And it was really the Me Too movement that gave me sort of the space to say, not just as a matter of corporate policy and not just as a matter of professional strategy to avoid misunderstandings or other kind of situations. I just think we shouldn't have been doing it in the first place, and now we have the means to actually get on with it. Have any of you seen anything like that?
I think that's part of the dynamic of culture change, that the relic of everyone in a work environment bonding over drinks comes from a small subset of people who were at one point in time predominantly in charge, and that was how they bonded. And so what happens is, culture builds around that dominant voice, and then it sort of becomes, this is how we do things. And I think if you were to probably still go to some organizations, they may still say, well, then how are we going to connect personally? How are we going to bond personally? How are we going to get to know each other outside the workplace? Because we're all scattered to our respective lives, and this is a way to break the day. And frankly, it's a lack of creative thinking. It's sort of the way we've always done things, and therefore this is how we bond, kind of thing. So I think that's really another illustration of the cultural shift that needs to happen. And Errol, you've hit the nail right on the head. The conversation has to be, why do we need to go out and bond over drinks? You have to look at those issues that frankly put a number of people at risk in corporate settings, not women, but anyone who feels, the power imbalance there in terms of how they interact with their peers or with their boss. But then the thinking is, well, if what we really want to do is bond as a group of coworkers, let's think about some ways to do that. And let's come up with something else. And picking up that challenge is the next step, replacing that unhealthy dynamic with something that's healthier.
Yeah, and just to jump on that, use the word, you hear the word all the time, inclusivity, right? And really that's what you're getting at. It's that if you're trying to be inclusive, you're not thinking solely about what will speak to a particular, either the dominant population or the population in leadership. You're really thinking about, how do I access the talent, the excellence of everyone around me? And to do that, you're going to have to figure out, how to connect and communicate with them. And so I think, underscoring what we talked about before, it's the shift in paradigm from this top down to bottoms up mentality that at least I know I'm experiencing in corporate America, where the diversity of stakeholders is being discussed in a different way, where from consumers to employees, giving voice to individuals and stakeholders that didn't necessarily have a seat at the table and full voice. So I see all of this, it's not just about Me Too, it really kind of blends into the social justice movement. All of these threads to me are leading to more inclusivity, more voices at the table, and quite frankly, from my perspective, better outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Natalie and Michelle, your parents immigrated from other countries. I'm curious, how did their experience, your experience, inform or influence your path in life, your career path?
I'm happy to start. So my dad immigrated from Cuba. He was part of Operación Pedro Pan, which is the largest non-wartime airlift of kids out of the country. My Cuban grandmother raised me, so Spanish was my first language. I went to bilingual education. I think, at a very young age, it was one being part of the other. Translating from my grandmother, when you're a child and you're translating for an adult, that, you really are exposed to a lot of things you shouldn't be exposed to. And it really shifts the power dynamic within a family as well. My parents worked very, very hard. I started working at a very young age. And so I think I've always placed a high value on hard work as a result of that experience. But I've also placed a high value in treating everyone with dignity and respect, because I saw how my family was treated and how I was treated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really similar story. My parents moved from Haiti in the brain drain in the 70s. And, that's their story and their decision to leave Haiti because my father was vocal against baby doc, and which was one of the reasons why he wanted to leave, really brought me to the law. I've always seen the law as rule of law, as the avenue to get away from or deal with fragile government structures. It was, in our household, I don't know if you know any Haitians, but they are the most political people you have ever met. All they do is talk about politics, because it was the voice of creating stability and structure for their country. Politics isn't politics. Politics is, how do I get out of the situation I'm in, right? So to me, they were always being Haitian, being a lawyer, standing up for the rule of law, democracy. All of these edicts were sort of interwoven into like the amazing food that we ate every day and the Creole that we spoke around the table.
Yeah, I live in Crown Heights near Franklin Avenue, and so whenever there was a change in government, which was all too frequent, unfortunately, in the late 80s, everyone would just be out on the parkway and on the street and so forth. I know exactly what you're talking about. The place was literally drenched in politics, and in ways that were not just interesting, but actually beneficial and good, I think, and will strengthen the city as a whole. In our last few minutes, I wanted to talk about, I guess, the state of the law. What are some areas where laws need to change? What should we be expecting to see in the next few years as far as legal changes that will benefit the people that Brooklyn Legal Services in particular cares about?
Well, I certainly hope that the push for comprehensive immigration reform gets back on the table. We have a broken system now. It's very, very challenging to work within the current immigration system, whether you're going through it as someone coming into the country or whether you're trying to administer it, from Washington, DC. It's a very, very difficult system to administer in a way that's truly fair and humane. And it's just got a lot of competing agendas there. Certainly voting Voting rights is an area that I think we all have to focus on. At the federal level, certainly there's tremendous resistance, but never underestimate the importance of the power of voting rights at the state level. We have seen, frankly, this movement to curtail voting rights has begun through gerrymandered states that have changed state laws, in some cases state constitutions, to limit the right to vote. So those are certainly two areas that I'm hoping that we can have some legal impact on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in my neck of the woods, obviously at the universal rental assistance, if that were to pass at the federal level, that would be transformative for millions of Americans, including many of the folks that both Fifth Avenue Committee and Brooklyn Legal Services serve. That would be very, very transformative, in addition to the things that Loretta said, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I do hope we're on the precipice of serious criminal justice reform. I look at some of the new leaders that are taking, the head jobs in some of the most powerful prosecutorial offices in the country. Shout out to Damian Williams. I really have high hopes for where we're going to go.
Yeah. And is it your sense, actually just to flip that back to Loretta for a minute, the new young talent that Natalie's talking about that are finding their way into your old job in the Eastern District and the Southern District as well, is that a pipeline that's sturdy enough to bring more diversity into that level of the legal profession, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. For the first time, of the 4 U.S. attorneys' offices in New York State, 3 are headed by people of color, by African-American prosecutors. An African-American woman in Buffalo, Western District of New York, have to call that out, as well as Brooklyn and Manhattan. And a tremendously strong woman took the helm in the Northern District. And all of those prosecutors understand the value of diversity, diverse backgrounds, diverse experiences, diverse perspectives in dealing with the communities that they serve. And I know that it's a priority for all of them. It's also a priority. It has to be a priority for us, though. We have to think about how do we have an impact on criminal justice reform. I continue to talk about the local level because so much of the criminal law gets played out locally. It gets handled by the district attorneys. We have some wonderful DAs coming into power as well in Manhattan, soon to be. Hopefully, after this next election, that'll be resolved. But we need to make sure that we have our voices are heard in terms of policies that are important to us, in terms of a true use of law enforcement as a public safety force, as opposed to just force, which is significantly different. And we have to make sure that those priorities are made clear to them on behalf of people who are most directly impacted by them. And it's a constant conversation. One of the things that happens sometimes is we get people in great positions and we sort of relax and we think, okay, great. We have a Black president, everything's going to be fine. It is a constant struggle to keep the issues pushing forward up the hill. And sometimes it's like pushing a boulder up the hill. I will tell you, particularly when it comes to criminal justice reform at the federal level, when you've got a bunch of senators on different sides and everyone's coming to agreement. And all of a sudden someone says, well, no, I will only agree if I get this amendment now to protect the muskrats. And you're like, where are we going with this? So, but there's more than one way to get this done. We have to keep pressure on every avenue.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our time. I want to thank Loretta Lynch and Natalie Lamarque and Michelle De La Housse for talking with me. Congratulations to all of you. And we certainly thank all of the people who decided to donate. We hope you'll tell your friends both about this chat and about the need to support Brooklyn Legal Services. Thanks very much, folks. We're going to turn it over now to Ron Rasmussen.
Hi, everybody. And wow, that was inspiring. This has been such a wonderful event. Thank you, Errol and Loretta and Natalie and Michelle. Thank you, Allison and Nancy, for your incredible legal work. And thank you all on the board and staff of Brooklyn Legal Services for all that you do that makes such a difference for those who need it so much. My job is to say just 3 things so you can hear from the remarkable Betty Staton and close out the evening. First, Legal Services NYC is the largest provider of civil legal services in the country. Our staff of nearly 650 delivers life-changing legal help to tens of thousands of low-income New Yorkers every year. Brooklyn Legal Services, where I started my career 36 years ago, with its staff of nearly 200, is our largest and most dynamic program. The residents of Brooklyn are grateful every day, as am I, for the work of our talented Brooklyn team. Second, the powerful discussion about diversity that you just heard is one that we are having every day at Legal Services NYC, and we are committed to getting it right. Our senior leadership at Brooklyn Legal Services, Project Director Tanya Wong, and President Betty Staton, and Director of Litigation Pavita Krishnaswamy, and Director of Administration Deborah Alexander, demonstrate conclusively the power that diverse leaders can bring to delivering high-impact services to our clients. I am so proud of their work. And finally, thank you all. This has been an incredibly tough year for so many of us. COVID hit New York City particularly hard, but we are on the rise. Our schools are open, our restaurants and stores and theaters are open, and we are all figuring out how to navigate our futures with sensitivity and safety, and with the understanding that we must always continue to deliver the life-changing legal services that low-income New Yorkers need so badly. Thank you all for your continued support. And now, let me pass the baton to the President of Brooklyn Legal Services, Betty Staton.
Good evening. I hope you have enjoyed this evening's event. Thank you for spending this time with Brooklyn Legal Services and for your support of the work that we are providing on behalf of our clients. Our special thanks to our sponsors, many of whom have supported Brooklyn Legal Services for years. And to our new sponsors, thank you for joining the struggle. We look forward for your continued support. To all of our contributors, please know that your financial contribution help us accomplish our goal of fighting injustices that our clients face every day. Our sincere appreciation to the board of Brooklyn Legal Services under the leadership of Deb Howard, and to Celeste Morris, Chair of the BLS Development Committee, as well as Tanya Salas, LSNYC Development Director, and the Development Associate, Anna Meyer, for their tireless efforts to make this event a success. And of course, the videographer, Ruben Kleiner, did his usual awesome job of making us look our best on camera and off. To our managers, supervisors, senior leadership, and operations team, thank you for taking on multiple tasks outside of your normal work responsibilities throughout this pandemic. We appreciate our advocates, intake officers, and support staff that continue to provide essential assistance for clients. And a really loud shout out to Tanya Wong, the project director. Tanya took on the leadership of Brooklyn Legal Services 2 short months before COVID hit full blast, and she has been fighting this battle for almost 2 years. Thank you, Tanya, for your steadfast leadership. Also, to our LSNYC Executive Director, Ron Rasmussen, and for the LSNYC Senior Leadership Team, thank you for your leadership throughout these challenging times. To Errol Lewis, words are inadequate to convey our appreciation. You have answered our call year after year, and your talent and skill has been a major contribution to the success of our events. To our honorees, Brooklyn Legal Services is happy for this opportunity to acknowledge your good works by honoring you with our annual Champion of Justice Award. Loretta Lynch, you have been a standard bearer for for justice for many years. Natalie Lamarque is a new friend to BLS. Thank you for your strong support of the services we provide to our poor and low-wage clients. The Fifth Avenue Committee, under the leadership of Michelle Delauze, has collaborated with BLS on various matters related to client and community services. Thank you all. Brooklyn Legal Services will continue to, in the words of John Lewis, get in good trouble by demanding justice and equality for all Brooklyn residents. Thank you, and we ask for your continued support and partnership in this struggle. Good night, peace and blessings to all.